Good morning guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to have a bit of a chat with you guys today about everything that's happening in my garden beds, everything that I'm planting and where, and I thought you guys would enjoy seeing that. So today I'm going to take you along with me and really show you what is going to be happening this springtime. Morning boys. I am so impressed with what the pigs have been able to do in this area behind me in the last few weeks as we have rotated them through the paddocks here. They have dug up the dirt and fluffed it up. They've dropped their nitrogen bombs just about everywhere, and they've really helped us to control this tea tree. But I want to take it one step further. I really want to turn this into a native edible bush food forest. So that means planting beautiful trees that have edible foods like berries, plums. I know we've got finger limes, macadamias as well, are all native to Australia. But I'm feeling a little bit intimidated by the idea. So I thought of adding a little bit of a different kind of incentive, and I'm going to need your help. I'm going to challenge us. If we can get to 500 subscribers, and we're halfway there, we're on 280. The plan is actually to spend $500 on a native food forest. And as soon as we reach 500 subscribers, then this is going to turn into an edible food forest, and I'm going to take you guys along on that journey. We might as well start our chat in our new garden beds here. They're not quite finished yet. Sam and I started working on them the other day. So just behind me here along the fence line, I've actually got some different shrubs and berries. I have two different kinds of raspberries, and then there's also two types of blueberries. I think they're called powder blue blueberries. Okay, then the next spot is our new spring garden beds. I'm super excited for these, but I'm also feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I'm feeling overwhelmed because I have never had this much garden space before, and I just don't know how much of everything I'm going to plant. I feel like I'm going to have so much food. Over here I'm planning to do my Three Sisters garden. So I'm going to have a lot of corn, pumpkins, different kinds of squashes as well. Beans, which these beans, just like my beans from last year, I'm going to have them going up around the corn. Corn's going to create a bit of a trellis for the beans, and they're going to grow up. I am planning with the beans in this garden to just leave them completely until the end of the season. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to dry a lot of these beans, whether it's for seeds for next year or just to have dried beans in our cupboards, which I love having. For the most part, this is going to be a garden that I can just kind of leave and then come back to when it's harvest time at the end of summer. The squash I'll have to collect, and that's fine, but mainly it's things that I can just leave. But then I'm looking around and there's still so much space here. So I'm thinking I might end up planting more tomatoes around here as well, because we love tomatoes. I'm also going to have little spots where I'm going to have flowers for the native bees. I really want to get into beekeeping in the next year, so I've been doing my research and getting in contact with a few locals that have some knowledge in the area. So the more flowers I plant in my garden now, the more I'll be able to support them when I do eventually get them. The front of our house. This is such an eyesore for me at the moment, and knowing that our neighbors are going to have their house built just across the road around here, looking right into our bedroom, mind you, we definitely want to start planting some more things around here. And I'm thinking something tall, so maybe some sunflowers that I can have in some raised beds. I was also thinking of doing my sweet potatoes around here as well, again in raised beds. We do have quite a bit of gravel in this area here, which makes it really hard to have in-ground beds. So having it in raised beds is going to be super important. All right, these garden beds here at the front of the house, I'm growing some sweet peas, and eventually I'll be growing beans as well. I've got some of my beans coming up now, and I've planted some more. I really love the idea of having beans and snow peas just taking over a wall. So I've got them growing up on the front of our house here to cover up any junk that we have laying around on our deck space over there. In different spots, I've scattered some red lettuce, cauliflower, capsicum. So this gets heaps and heaps of sun during the summertime. And right behind me in this spot here, I've planted this whole spot out with eggplant, and again, because of all of that sunlight that it's going to get in this spot, the tomatoes grew so well last time that I think things that are used to having more sun, like eggplants, chilies and capsicums, are really going to do well in this area. I do have some thyme and some more flowers growing along these spots as well. On the other side of the house here, you guys know that I've been fighting with the chickens with this area here with my flowers. I have planted some more seeds and there's heaps of flowers coming up, so I'm super excited to see this just grow right up. I've got my potatoes in pots doing really well. This is going to make it super easy to harvest because all I have to do is tip out the bucket and I've got a bunch of potatoes in there. Down the front here, making use of these amazing poles that our landlord has planted into the ground, I've got some sweet pea, which seems to be taking off now. I thought it would be a winter crop, but it seems to be doing fine now. And I also have some passion fruit vines growing. So these are doing really well. They're from the nursery. I think I did plant some other seeds around in this spot as well. Oh, and I almost forgot, I did plant loofah seeds there. So whether they come up or not, I guess we'll find out. Spot over here, I think we've talked about. I have beans growing, which I'm going to put up on this pole. And I'm also going to be planting some watermelons here. Similar to the pumpkins and the squash, watermelons love to branch out and go down a hill. So I think it would look incredible to have them just going down this hill, sprawling out wherever they want as we have our fires during the summer. And now the piece de resistance, the garden that I've worked on for the last year that has really come far. This garden here behind me, let me show you what's growing right now and what's growing soon. Alright, so as you can see with this garden here, not a lot is growing at the moment. My coriander has lasted all through winter, all through autumn, and is now heading into its springtime. So that's pumping, and I think it's going to continue growing, which is incredible. I love herbs that pretend to be perennials every now and again. My lettuce has started to go to seed and to flower, so I'm planning to try save the seeds. Not really sure how to do that, but I'll do some research, I'll watch some YouTube videos, and I'll figure that out. This is apparently a mix of mustard greens, I think, and that has been incredible. It has actually lasted all through winter. It's still doing so well, and we've been chopping at it and eating it as we go, and it's been delicious. As you can see, the mint and the rosemary that me and my best friend Steph planted together is taking off as well in its own little secluded pots so that it doesn't take away space from any other plants in the garden. The broccoli and the Brussels sprouts that I planted and transplanted as well is going well. I am noticing some bugs are starting to pop up. The little white butterflies, they love to lay their caterpillars right on brassicas, so I don't feel like that's going to last long, but fingers crossed it'll make it. I've got my spring onion at the front here. As far as preparing this garden for the next season, I have planted some zucchinis along here. I've also planted some bush beans as well, and I think I've planted some pickle cucumbers to go up the trellis where we've got the long part there. I think on the other side, I'm going to let these broccolis do their thing, and then I'm also going to plant some basil around the sides. See, this is what I mean. I'm feeling so overwhelmed with how much space I have and what I can plant. I really don't want to be planting flowers in my garden beds this time. You might notice that I've got things like nasturtiums and I've got sunflowers and other flowers around the edges of my gardens and in their own little secluded spots. But as far as planting them into my garden beds, I really want to keep that for edible things. I planted some beans around the poles of the trellis, so I'm hoping that they'll grow up and I'll be able to snake them up the plant. I've done it on the four corners. So in this garden bed, I've planted a lot of beans, which are all going to climb up on that trellis and is going to create a beautiful bean wall. These are beans that I want to harvest from throughout the season to have fresh, to freeze. I love beans, so the more the better, and I think we're going to have so many this year. At the front here, I've got lots of different types of greens. I suspect that this garden is going to have the least amount of sun during the summertime and the springtime, so I really tried to plant things that prefer cold weather. So I've got my greens, I've got some carrots, I've got beans. Alright, in my first ever garden, the baby garden, the one that started it all, I actually have quite a bit planted. I think this garden is pretty much planted out, so let me talk you through what's going on here. Around the teepees, I have both cucumbers and beans growing, all except for the teepee right at the end where the potatoes are. I have my potatoes growing, of course. Once those potatoes are out, I will most likely be planting some more onions or garlics over there. I'm really keeping this bed as my root vegetable garden this year, as well as cucumbers and beans. So I've got things like onions, garlics, and carrots planted here. I've got some daikon radishes, which are the long white radishes, as well as the little red ones, which I absolutely love in salad with cucumber and sour cream. It's my favorite Russian salad. The other day I did come through and I planted some bush beans to help inject this with nitrogen. The same reason that I've got my worm towers at the ends. I have cabbages growing in the middle of each of the teepees, as well as in random spots here and there in the garden. I'm experimenting with growing cabbage this year for the first time. I've got a few Russian recipes, as well as things like kimchi that I'd like to have a go at. Around the side here, you know, I've planted some herbs and some flowers, again for all of those beneficial bugs. The old compost pile, I have planted some sunflowers that have come up. I did also have a go at planting some corn. In these spots here, I've actually planted some more brassicas, so some broccolis. I feel like I planted other things as well. I never just plant one thing in one space. Tell me if there's a benefit to planting one thing in one space, but for now, I've really enjoyed just kind of mixing things together that are really good companion plants, but also just kind of have the different balance of height. If you haven't noticed, my garden beds this year are all about height and levels, and so I've continued that with the types of plants that I'm planting together. Our landlord is a bit of a gardener himself, so he's planted plenty of fruit trees. We have a delicious lemon tree that is pumping throughout the year. We actually put our lemons out the front for our neighbours, and it's really encouraged us to build our relationship with them. We have limes. Down here I discovered that I have a feijoa tree, which is actually fruiting. We also have some thyme mixed in with some kind of perennial succulent, which seems to just go crazy but has beautiful flowers, so we've just let it do its thing. We actually also have some oregano just kind of snaking its way through the garden, being a bit of a cover crop, so love that. On this side, we also have an olive tree, which I harvested from last year, and that was lots of fun. Those olives are just about ready. I've had them in a brine curing for almost 6 months now, so I'm so excited. I'm so glad to see that my fig trees, after giving them a bit of a prune, are actually growing, and it looks like they've already got some little figs. The big fig tree, I was a bit freaked out about. It was going right through our net. You can see there's all these holes everywhere. And so I had to give it a major prune. And then I was freaking out thinking I killed the tree, but I'm super excited to see that there's some buds growing on it. And this little garden here, right now I've got potatoes planted. Once those potatoes are gone, I think I'm going to plant some either sweet potatoes here or possibly some more squashes here as well. This bed here that's got the cardboard on it is just about ready. That's going to have pumpkins growing. My neighbor said that pumpkins really enjoy going down a hill, and we've got plenty of that for it. I almost forgot to mention what's growing on my tomato trellis garden. So I did plant some tomatoes at the front here. They're black cherry tomatoes. I also have some larger, I think they're called Brandywise tomatoes, which are in the containers, and I'm going to transplant out. Then I have some basil growing on the two ends of this garden because basil and tomato are best friends, and the more basil the better. I ended up planting both purple basil as well as green sweet basil together, just mixing it up because I thought it would look fun. And right now inside I've got garlic sprouting roots, and I'm going to transplant that into the middle of the garden bed to deter some bugs. And again, that garlic's going to go in the middle here as well as in different spots in my garden. Guys, do you see what I mean by I'm feeling overwhelmed with just how much is growing here and how much space I have? I'm not even done yet. I thought that I was finished, but I forgot the garden at the front here. I haven't even shared my herbs with you guys yet. At the front, close to our native trees as well as our drain line, we've got some more potatoes growing. These ones have been doing so well. I've got some strawberries, which Steph and I planted, and some garlic intermixed with them. I think I mentioned it in a different video that this year I'm planning to plant onion, garlic and carrot throughout my gardens to, one, use up the space that's there and make it more valuable, but things like garlic and onion are really good at deterring bad bugs. They give off a smell to bugs that tells them that there's nothing tasty there. So in a way, they're protecting my other produce as well as growing in spaces so that they're not taking up space, where I want to grow something else. The herb garden is starting to grow. It's still a little bit slow. The whole point of having it facing away from the sun is that the sun can still filter through the shade cloth here, but none of this is going to get baked during the really hot summer sun. So this is doing well. I've got some coriander popping through, some parsley I think, and even the basil starting to grow now, which is so exciting. In pots here we've got some bay leaf, we have an avocado tree. I do have some ginger growing in here, but I did check it the other day. It's got roots, but it's not growing just yet. A blueberry bush, which we've had for about a year now, so I'm hoping I'll get some fruit from this time. And of course, a feijoa tree. And the last plant I have is a curry leaf tree, which is delicious with some rice in curries. We absolutely love it. So that's growing here as well. So that, you guys, is it. That is our gardens. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit of a different one, a bit more of a show and tell kind of video. I really feel like one of my kids instead of their teacher now. And yeah, I'm gonna stop blabbering on and just get on with it. Have a great week, everyone.